This is the intro. Hello. It's been a good minute, but here I am with an absolute classic, the end of year video. It's been an interesting but overall very exciting year for film. We've had some big Marvel films. James Gunn's Superman made a big splash for DC's new cinematic universe. We've had accusations of plagiarism, unnecessary live action remakes of beloved animated films, surprising remakes of live action films. PTA came back with a stonker, and of course, we had Wicked, which I didn't see, so, you know, don't expect that to pop up in this video. Sorry, it's just not for me, I guess. Oh yeah, and then there was the whole Quentin Tarantino thing, where he proved once again what an insufferable rage-baiting tool he is whenever he opens his mouth. Hope the Fortnite royalties and attention was worth it, buddy. We don't need to get into the potential death of cinema and the monopolization of entertainment with Netflix purchasing Warner Brothers, and in fact, I'm getting sidetracked. I swear this has been a pretty good year for film. Regards to the drama, we have been eating pretty good as far as good quality cinema goes, but unfortunately there were a few films I missed out on, whether it was due to time, or the fact that they were released later in the UK, or just pure laziness on my part for not watching them. Notably, one battle after another missed my line of sight, which I am gutted about. I'm a huge PTA fan, and he is a filmmaker that consistently pushes the envelope with how brilliantly constructed and unique his films are. Hamnet, Train Dreams, Rose of Nevada, Sentimental Value, and The Smashing Machine also unfortunately missed out on this video, much to my disappointment. And the one I'm probably most gutted to have not gotten around to watching is Marty Supreme. I love Josh Safdie, and Marty Supreme, based on all of the trailers and promotion, really looked like it was going to be a fantastic time. Fuck that. Looked like it was going to be a good time. Anyway, the main crux of this video is to discuss not just 2025 releases, but just to go over films that I watched for the first time this year. I've done the last couple of years to astounding success, I must say. But before I do go over the top 10 films that I watched this year, I thought it was pertinent to give a special shout out for some of the 2025 releases that I did get around to watching, because there was a fair few, and they were all pretty great. Starting with Eddington, which has been a film that has stuck in my mind for a while now, and to be totally honest, I didn't gel with it as much as I had with previous Ari Aster's work, but there's something about the way Eddington presents that awful period in 2020 as this boiling point of persistent conflict and frustrated voices that has continued to stick with me after a first watch. It's definitely one to go back to soon, I think. I think I'm more ready for reliving that whole period of life than I was first time round when I watched it. The Fantastic Four, First Steps and Thunderbolts felt like they should have been Marvel's big return to form, that they could get past the supposed drought of superhero fatigue and bring people back to the same level of anticipation for Doomsday that they had for Infinity War back in the day. It's not quite a home run, I'll be honest, but there's some promise. The world of Fantastic Four was refreshingly vibrant, and I loved the interpretation of Reed and Sue. They were terrific. It just didn't quite amaze me as much as I hoped with its story, and Galactus as a threat was a little underwhelming for me. I kind of wanted more of this incomprehensible existential danger to the world, and he was mostly just a big dude grabbing babies, which granted, he is kind of that in the comics too. Then there was Thunderbolts, which honestly really surprised me with how mature and grounded it felt. It really was gunning for this outsiders feel, and the best scenes were whenever the characters were just standing around talking to one another. They have great dynamics with one another, and I loved that the film ventured into ideas of mental health and depression with sincerity and honesty. It didn't blow me away, but it was fun and emotionally investing, so, you know, thumbs up for that. Sticking with superheroes for a moment, Superman was great. I felt like the perfect return DC needed, and a great way to push through the murky, self-serious Snyderverse to something that was more optimistic and hopeful. It's certainly a bit of a mess of a film, but a beautiful mess at that, and one that really got to my heart in a way Superman should, which is inspiring an idea that, hey, maybe we can all get along eventually. Maybe there is, you know, hope in the world. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention K-pop Demon Hunters, which was a gorgeously entertaining animated film. K-pop isn't necessarily my thing, but there's no denying how punchy and energetic the soundtrack is, and the way it's integrated into the story worked well, despite the story also feeling a tad too familiar and safe. I just mean it doesn't exactly break the mold in terms of examining ideas of being yourself and loving yourself and the various trials and tribulations that come with that. And I've got to be really careful with criticising this, I feel. Look, I see you clicking off, and I'm sorry, okay? It was great. I really did enjoy it, I swear. Yeah, nice work, Anthony. Tell someone your favourite K-pop Demon Hunter song is your idol without telling them explicitly. The Monkey was obviously very silly. Ballerina proves that milking a franchise dry can still make for some very entertaining action. Companion was awesome and a really surprising hit for me this year. Really got on with that film. 28 Years Later was a gristly, pulpy punch of adrenaline and maybe one of, if not Danny Boyle's best film. And Begonia was just weird. Just a weird film, man. I'm oversimplifying for the sake of time, but yeah, You've done it again, Yorgos. Of course, like everyone, I loved Sinners. The I Lie to You scene will be ingrained into my mind forever. Just what an excellent and mesmerising visual and auditory experience that was. Then, not long before recording this video, I saw Wake Up Dead Man, the new film by Rian Johnson, which proves once again that he was just made to do these whodunit thrillers. Superbly fun with some expectedly stellar performances and characters all around. Really, really great time. Right. Now that's out of the way, let's crack on with the top 10 films that I watched this year. And a reminder that these are not exclusively releases from 2025, although I can confirm that 2 films from this year have made the list, so how exciting. That was weird. No, I didn't like that. All of these films I would definitely recommend watching, so please go check them out after this video or add them to the watch list if you haven't already. But without further ado, let's get into it with... Right at the start of this year, we unfortunately lost David Lynch, a death that, despite never knowing or meeting the man, actually hit me quite hard. Lynch has always been one of my favourite directors and biggest creative inspirations, so hearing of his passing really felt like something was torn from the world. Almost felt like a bit of a bad omen for the rest of the year in some regards too. In honour of Lynch, I wanted to catch up on films that I haven't actually seen of his, and found myself finally watching Wild at Heart, which was everything I could have hoped for from the King of Dreams himself. This is the horniest Lynch has ever been, and Dern and Cage carry that lust and love with such unbridled passion, but they're also incredibly funny too. Whether it's Dern clutching at her hair in anguish, or Cage repeating his own ethos of how his jacket makes him so cool and unique, it's just so splendidly hammy and melodramatic. While other Lynch films have mesmerised me more, or terrified me more, Wild at Heart manages to create a road trip journey like nothing else, an odyssey if you will, that wraps up some of the most intense, fiery romance you have ever seen on screen into a thrillingly hilarious and shocking leather jacket of undeniable coolness. We'll miss you, David. See you in dreams. So, briefly going back to Tarantino, among his many outlandish claims and statements he makes on podcasts, he recently said that Scorsese hasn't made an exciting film this century. What are you talking about, you toe-sucking donut? QT clearly missed out on Silence then, because it was an astoundingly powerful piece on the silence of God and the pressure nature can take on one's faith as they are faced with insurmountable odds. Silence isn't exciting because it has a lot of flash. The excitement for me comes from how mesmerised I am by seeing a director like Scorsese continue to operate at such a profoundly impactful and creative place, and that he does this despite having also been making films since the 60s. Silence honestly might be Scorsese's darkest film, tackling discussions of faith versus nature through the journey of 2 Jesuit priests across 17th century Japan. It is a journey of quiet contemplation in the face of uncertainty and doubt, where the mist and haze of Edo masks truth both literally and figuratively. Silence, for me, has to be one of Scorsese's best films, almost giving me the same awe I felt watching Taxi Driver for the first time. Go figure that Klaus Kinski is good at playing an absolute raving lunatic. He's really got a knack for it. I wonder how he does it. I've seen a criminally small number of Werner Herzog films outside of documentaries like Grizzly Man, so I was keen to give his narrative films some more attention, and Aguirre is truly one of those they don't make it like this anymore kind of films. Despite some initial confusion over it being a German film with English-speaking actors playing Spaniards dubbed over in German, it is... Besides all that, it is a truly immersive experience, and punishingly so. You can really feel the ache and effort that went into making this film, a tragedy and pain that is etched across the performer's face and really sells what an exhausting pursuit for fame and glory this journey was for the characters. It's a tried and tested thing, and sometimes it doesn't always land, but narratives about the innate inner violence and chaos of men just works. It's cynical and depressing to think of and explore, sure, but Aguirre captures an entirely distant part of history in such rich, gloriously muddy magnificence that it is nothing short of mesmerising to experience. Maybe this year it's just been a really good one for characters going on epic journeys that challenge them, both mentally, physically and spiritually, because Godland continues that vein, but in a far more introspective way than Aguirre or Silence. Godland is harrowing and bleak, but has tremendously poetic visual language to it, with its wide shots of Iceland capturing a visceral beauty as it tests and pushes our protagonists to the brink. It's a good companion piece to Aguirre in some ways, due to the whole man versus nature thing and the inner impulsive violence within, but Godland is far more concerned with inner conflict of faith and the consequences of being true to your faith, despite being consistently and vehemently tested by the people around you, as well as the ground you walk on. It is a stunning and engrossing journey that, despite the visuals and meditative atmosphere being so absorbing, is a film that leaves you thinking more on its characters and their personal conflict. Just terrific. Really beautiful stuff. Now for something entirely different. It's difficult to really talk about this in the same way as the other films because this is a concert film and it is basically just a series of songs performed live on stage, and if Talking Heads ain't your jam, you probably won't like it. But I challenge anyone to not enjoy watching Stop Making Sense. It is beautifully weird and zany with some of the punchiest, exciting and energetic music you'll ever hear, coupled with some brilliant stage presence from David Burnett. It's just a really great time. Pure, unadulterated fun, same as it ever was, same as it ever was, same as it ever was. 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 I've been on a real Ingmar Bergman thing recently, and I'm keen to capture that same level of excitement and awe that I got watching Persona, which was my favourite film I watched last year. My Summer with Monica came nowhere near close. I didn't love it. Winter Light was almost there, but Hour of the Wolf gets closest to scratching that itch for me. This was a disturbing experience that drifted further into horror than I ever really expected from Bergman. Real sort of gothic, dark, surreal horror that plays with notions of dreams and fables. In a similar way to Persona, it is more a reflection of inner consciousness with images that conjure illusions of strange, nonsensical figures and explores notions of infidelity, mental health, insomnia, and most pointedly for me, time. I'm not going to try and claim that I understand Hour of the Wolf because explaining it means spoiling the whole experience of it. But the scene in which Max von Sydow talks about time and counts a minute in real time feels like a pointed examination on the relationship between film and time, calling upon Tarkovsky himself as Bergman reaches out to the audience and blurs barriers between screen and reality. Proper arty tosh I'm chatting right there, but it really was a stunning experience watching this film. It was confusing and enchanting, a little sexy I guess. Great stuff overall. Can't wait to see what else Bergman has stuffed up his Freudian sleeve. Kurosawa is truly a master and one of the greatest to ever do it. This guy has the kind of praise and recognition that Timmy Chalamet wishes he could get. Ran is an epic of the grandest proportion, and Kurosawa meticulously constructs and orchestrates this Shakespearean tragedy to perfection, as expected from Kurosawa. The visuals are grand, the colours and costumes pop on screen, the score is imposing, the set and production size is nothing short of astonishing to behold, and leaves you flabbergasted as to how anyone could pull something as cohesive as this off, regardless of how much money you have to achieve it. It is honestly quite overwhelming of an experience, but it still manages to draw you in with its scale, only to have you totally wrapped up in the characters as greed and ambition poison their minds. In the end, you are left with a beautiful encapsulation of humanity's self-destruction and the stranded feeling of being completely abandoned by your creators. Kurosawa really knows how to end a film with just a gut punch, that's for sure. Like David Lynch, Lynn Ramsey has had significant impact on me, both as a writer and a filmmaker, and I was supremely excited to finally watch one of her films on the big screen. There are certainly a lot of themes around motherhood that are hugely important to this film that I couldn't possibly comment on, but Die My Love really manages to make them feel raw and personally impactful in a way that is uncomfortable and unflinching. It's not a film that pulls its punches, and a lot of that can be felt through Jennifer Lawrence's committed performance, tapping into primal and instinctive feelings that are often strange to watch, but consistently give insight into her character's tragic inner turmoil. The film's insight into fractured minds and the idea of an untamable beast at heart refusing to be domesticized really struck me. There's this persistent battle of primal needs against societal requirements, a subduing that threatens to keep a hold of a spirit that simply wants to run away from it all, from everything. Lynn Ramsey's films are among the first I ever analysed and dissected in film classes, and she continues to astound and amaze me with how purely poetic and cinematic her work is. Her work holds a special place in my heart, and it's no wonder that Die My Love makes it into the top 3 of films that I watched this year. I had some concerns going into Weapons that I would have a bit of a long leg situation on my hands. You know, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed long legs, but the hype and the marketing for that film was immense and meant that the final product just didn't quite live up. Weapons was everything I could have hoped for and wanted, despite also having kind of like very little idea as to what it was really about. I mean, the vibe seemed fun and spooky, and that was enough to get me excited. But as it turns out, Weapons is tremendously entertaining, has given me some of the biggest shocks and laughs of any film I've seen this year, or at all time. It perfectly toes the line between comedy and terror through leaning into its absurdities with real charm and full-throttled, eye-popping energy. Weapon's main sticking point is its narrative structure, which perfectly lends itself to this old wives' tale, local rumour mill storytelling where we perceive events from varying perspectives that gradually reveal more of its secrets and mysteries. The performances all around are really superb, with a special shout out to Amy Madigan, who is brilliantly creepy and weirdly quite charming. The editing is tight and the direction is precise and calculated, while never straying away from indulging in fun, pulpy horror. All these elements combined with its small town setting makes for an honestly quite Lynchian experience in some regards. It's like a Lynchian fairy tale. Also, there's one scene in a car at night time with a character moving out of the darkness in this strange, uncanny manner, just so unsettling and nerve-wracking, and the actors' movements are just... oh. Revisiting Weapons a second time affirmed it as one of my absolute favourites I've watched this year, and by far my favourite film to come out in 2025. But it wasn't my number one pick for this year. No. See, that goes to... Tennis is back, baby! Woo! Not like it went anywhere, but, you know, made for a pretty middle-of-the-road joke. I've always been a big fan of Luca Guadagnino's work. He's always so good at capturing sultry tones and interesting character dynamics, all photographed in stunning colours and compositions, and Challengers is no exception, and, for my money, feels like his absolute best work. Dare I say his magnum opus. The camera work and direction alone is nothing short of spectacular, creating some never-before-seen imagery as we watch the tennis action from inside tennis balls, under tennis courts, batting across and around sweat-besotted faces in glorious, energetic fashion. The character dynamics throughout the film are a constant game of one-upmanship, where each person is in constant pursuit of a personal goal, of getting the win over another, and there's this palpable competitive drive masking inner desire, hiding loneliness, and spurning ambitious pursuits of greatness. These dynamics play off one another while simultaneously being edited within a single dramatic tennis match, so as an audience member, we learn more about the characters as they play, their advantages in the match mirroring the various ups and downs of their past. It is totally brilliant. Genius. I haven't even mentioned the score, which is superbly throbbing, hyper-stylized medley of club bangers that accentuate both the brutal competitiveness and the pent-up sexual tension. And speaking of, goddamn, these guys are hot. Josh O'Connor is a wild man, oozing some delicious charisma while still having this inherent sadness deep within him, while Mike Feist is a polished work of perfection masking cracks of insecurity, a perfect foil to Josh O'Connor, a reflection of each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. Then there's Zendaya, who pulls off a career best, channeling power and ferocity and even a slight edge of sociopathy. I mean, she is a character so innately driven by competition. It is the thing that breathes life into her very soul. And those kinds of characters, the kind that are so consumed by ambition and their wants and needs, that are some of the most compelling that you could ever watch in a film. And that's what I watched this year. Overall, I watched 54 films for the first time, unfortunately an all-time low record compared to my previous years, but hey, that's fine. Life happens, priorities shift, and I'm just glad to be able to watch such a great group of quality films. Looking forward to 2026, and there are some big releases that I am totally excited for, namely Robert Eggers' Werewolf, Supergirl, The Bride, Dune Messiah, Mother Mary, just some real crackers to look forward to. I'm also shaping up to finish my Masters in Film and TV next year too, which might open up some more opportunities to make more video essays and discussion pieces, but until anything comes out, please do consider just checking out some of my other video essays. I did a big one on Robert Eggers a couple years ago that I'm very proud of. I also like to share and post short films on here now and then when I get around to them, if that takes your fancy, and you can also click in the link down below to view the entirety of my list on Letterboxd. Anyway, that's the video. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great Christmas, keep watching films, and have a happy new year. Stay safe. Much love.